We like to believe the human mind operates within certain understandable limits, boundaries built by biology, culture, and evolution. But beneath those boundaries are disorders so rare and surreal, they don't just challenge what we know about psychology, they challenge what we know about reality. In this video, we'll explore the strangest corners of the mind, conditions so rare, even most psychologists will never see them in a lifetime of practice. Yet for the few who live through them, they are terrifyingly real. Tonight, I'll take you on a journey into the obscure, where people believe they're dead, feel disconnected from their own bodies, or even lose their sense of time and size. These are not tales from fiction. Every story you'll hear is documented in scientific journals or clinical case files. This isn't meant to shock. It's meant to reveal the mind's fragility, and its power. As always, if any part of this content feels personally relevant to you, please seek out support from a licensed mental health professional. Let's begin with the delusion that convinced one man he had already died. Chapter 1, Cotard's Delusion, Walking Corpse Syndrome. Cotard's delusion, also known as walking corpse syndrome, is one of the most chilling psychological conditions ever documented. Individuals with Cotards become convinced that they do not exist. They may believe their body is empty, void of organs, blood, or a soul. In some cases, they insist they are dead. The condition was first documented in the 1880s by French neurologist Jules Cotard. His patient, known as Mademoiselle X, refused to eat because she believed she had no internal organs and was eternally damned. She eventually died of starvation. One of the most famous modern cases was that of Graham, a man from the UK who survived a suicide attempt but then told doctors that he had, in fact, died. He believed his brain had ceased to function and that he no longer needed food or sleep. When scanned, Graham's brain showed extremely low activity in regions related to self-awareness, similar to what doctors see in comatose patients. Cotard's is often linked with severe depression and can be triggered by neurological trauma. Treatments include antipsychotics, antidepressants, and electroconvulsive therapy, which has shown success in many cases. To those suffering from Cotard's, the world doesn't feel empty, it feels like a cruel echo of life they no longer belong to. Chapter 2, Capgras Delusion, the Imposter Illusion. Capgras delusion leads people to believe someone close to them, a spouse, sibling, child, has been replaced by an identical-looking imposter. They recognize the face but not the emotional connection. The delusion can be terrifying. Imagine waking up one day, seeing your partner, and being absolutely sure that the person beside you is not really them. One case involved a woman who insisted her husband was a government spy wearing a mask. Despite all logical evidence, her conviction never wavered. The neurological explanation involves a disconnection between the visual recognition area of the brain and the limbic system, which processes emotional familiarity. The face looks familiar, but it doesn't feel familiar, so the brain invents an explanation. Capgras often appears in patients with schizophrenia, dementia, or after traumatic brain injuries. It's treated with antipsychotic medication and therapy. In some cases, safety planning is also required to protect both the patient and those they falsely accuse. Capgras reminds us how fragile our emotional wiring is, how even the most familiar relationships can become strange through the lens of a broken mind. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 3, Alien Hand Syndrome, the Rogue Limb. Alien hand syndrome is a condition where one hand appears to act on its own, without the person's conscious control. The person may feel their hand is foreign, not their own, and in some cases, it may perform actions that go against their intentions. The syndrome typically arises after trauma to the corpus callosum, the bridge between the two brain hemispheres, or after certain types of stroke or neurosurgery. Patients with alien hand syndrome have reported their hand unbuttoning shirts, throwing away items they were trying to keep, or even hitting their own face. One famous case involved a woman who had undergone surgery for epilepsy. Afterward, her left hand began fighting her right, slapping it, pushing food away, or trying to tear up papers she was writing. It's a fascinating and disturbing glimpse into how the two halves of our brain can become disconnected, and how agency itself is not as unified as we like to think. While there is no cure, patients often learn to manage the condition with behavioral strategies, keeping the rogue hand occupied or even wearing a mitten to limit movement. Chapter 4: Foreign Accent Syndrome. Foreign accent syndrome is a rare disorder where someone suddenly begins speaking with what sounds like a foreign accent. It usually follows a brain injury, stroke, or other trauma. Crucially, this isn't someone pretending, it's an involuntary change in their speech patterns. In one case, a woman in the UK began speaking with what sounded like a French accent after a severe migraine. She had never lived in France and couldn't speak French fluently, but her rhythm and tone changed dramatically. In another case, a woman from Texas developed what sounded like a British accent after a dental procedure. Speech specialists found subtle shifts in how she formed vowels and consonants, creating the illusion of a foreign accent. Neurologically, the condition is believed to stem from damage to the left hemisphere of the brain, particularly areas responsible for speech motor control and rhythm. While foreign accent syndrome may sound amusing to outsiders, it often causes distress and social anxiety. Many sufferers feel isolated, mocked, or disbelieved. Treatment focuses on speech therapy and emotional support. Chapter 5: Boanthropy. I am a cow. Boanthropy is a rare condition in which a person believes they are a cow or ox. It may sound absurd, but to the person experiencing it, the belief is absolutely real. Historical accounts of boanthropy go back centuries. The most famous is the biblical account of King Nebuchadnezzar, who was said to have lived like an ox, grazing in fields, growing his hair and nails long, and abandoning his throne. Modern psychiatry has documented rare cases as well. In one case, a man in India was found crawling on all fours in a pasture, mooing and eating grass. Doctors diagnosed him with schizophrenia with severe delusions. Boanthropy is typically seen in the context of psychotic episodes or severe identity disorders. It may be influenced by cultural or religious beliefs, especially in regions where animal symbolism holds deep meaning. Treatment involves antipsychotic medication and therapy aimed at restoring the person's sense of human identity and self-worth. Chapter 6: Jerusalem Syndrome. Jerusalem syndrome is a condition in which a person, usually a tourist visiting Jerusalem, develops intense religious delusions. They may believe they are a biblical figure, or that they have a divine mission. What makes this condition so intriguing is that many sufferers have no prior history of mental illness. The syndrome seems triggered by the overwhelming spiritual energy of the city. One case involved a man who wrapped himself in bed sheets and began preaching on a street corner, claiming to be John the Baptist. He was taken to a local hospital, treated, and fully recovered within days of leaving the city. Doctors in Jerusalem have developed specific protocols to deal with such cases, especially during peak tourist seasons. Many patients are treated and returned home without further incidents. Jerusalem syndrome reveals how location, belief, and identity can collide in dramatic and unpredictable ways. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 7: Alice in Wonderland Syndrome. Alice in Wonderland Syndrome, AIWS, is a condition that causes dramatic distortions in perception. People may feel their body is shrinking or growing, or that objects around them are distorted in size or shape. One young girl reported that her hands seemed to grow several feet long. Another patient felt that time was moving incredibly slowly, as if minutes were stretched into hours. The syndrome is most commonly linked to migraines, epilepsy, or certain viral infections. It's named after the famous Lewis Carroll story, in which Alice experiences similar perceptual distortions. Carroll himself suffered from severe migraines, and some scholars believe his writing was inspired by his own experiences of altered perception. Most cases of AIWS are temporary, and patients often learn to recognize the symptoms and wait them out. Still, the experience can be deeply unsettling. AIWS shows us just how fluid and fragile our sense of space, size, and time can be. Exploring the most bizarre corners of the human mind, places where logic breaks down, perception shatters, and reality becomes negotiable. These disorders are rare, but they remind us that the line between sanity and delusion is thinner than we'd like to admit. If you found this video fascinating, please subscribe. New episodes are released regularly, each one a deeper dive into the human psyche. Until next time, take care of your mind, and never stop exploring it.